We have told men throughout, I guess, the past 20 years, especially the past 10, I don't agree with any of it. I think it's horrible what we've been telling men to stop being men. And we've unfortunately reared our sons to be like women, and it's not helping them. Probably 20 something years ago, and there was a very nice young man that I was friends with at the time when I was dating. He was having difficulty finding someone. I had already gotten married. I actually had tried to help him, and I heard his pain and what he was going through.
Give us a little bit of your background and how we got to this point where you're so involved in Shidduchim. By the way, we say Shidduchim on the show.
Okay. It calls that every hour of the day and night. My family can attest to this. Brazil, France, Italy, England, Africa, Australia, everywhere. People need a Shidduch.
And right before we begin, Zahava was kind enough to leave free resources for you guys to go over things like questions to ask on dates, what to do on a date, where to take a date, etc., etc. I'll leave a link in the description below. Enjoy the episode.
Sarah and Max, an unlikely pair in this wild podcast. They're the perfect flair. Sarah's charm, so feminine and free. A Cali girl spirit under the podcast tree. Max is strong force with a punch in every word. Together they navigate the dating absurd. Don't forget to hit subscribe, join the crew for more laughs and tales just for you. Now back to the show.
And welcome back to another episode of Good for Shidduchim. I am your host, Max Landisman. Today we have a special guest. We have Zahava Stilman, a Shadchan, a dating coach. And she's got some really, really strong opinions on certain things, which we'll definitely be getting into. But she has a lot of things that I think will get people thinking of their dating life for sure and how to improve upon it. So Zahava, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. My very good friend, Zipporah Guggenheim, said, hey, you should be on here. So I said, all right, if it'll help.
Yeah, and I appreciate Zipporah for sure, but I had to use some of my sales skills to eventually reel you in, to eventually really be able to do it. You are not an easy person to get on a podcast, but I very much appreciate you coming on.
Well, it's about the singles. It's not about me.
Exactly. Yeah, you were mentioning before the show that, you get up in the middle of the night for stuff, which we'll definitely get into. But I want to dedicate this show as a refuah for your son, Daniel Yosef Ben Zahava Batya, who is going to be having open heart surgery. He's a father of two, lives in Israel, so we all should have him in our prayers that he should have a full refuah shlema.
Amen. Thank you.
Yep. Absolutely. So before we get into some of the hot topics of today, maybe you could help us, give us a little bit of your background and how we got to this point where you're so involved in Shidduchim. By the way, we say Shidduchim on the show.
Okay. Well, I shorten it to matchmaking. So I started my very first time. I actually thought about this after we initially spoke. My very first Shidduchim was probably 20 something years ago. And there was a very nice young man that I was friends with at the time when I was dating. And he was having difficulty finding someone. I had already gotten married. And I actually had tried to help him. And I heard his pain and what he was going through. He was 36 at the time. He was Shomer Nagia. And he could not find a woman that would go out with him because he was Shomer Nagia. And it took him a long time to find someone that was right for him. He was a brilliant man, had a PhD from birth, and eventually he found someone. And I remember trying to help him and seeing how hard it was. And then fast forward to family members who became in the Parsha, and they needed assistance from different, Shadchanim, matchmakers. And I sort of saw what was going on with that. And I saw what was going on with my neighbors' singles, my rabbi's daughters, my rabbi's son, just pretty much everything. And it got me into it because I saw the pain. I saw how hard it was for everyone. And I started out with, like a lot of people do, at Saw You at Sinai. And I know that's good and bad. For some people love it, some people hate it. And so I did that training that they have there. And I spoke with a lot of different matchmakers and spoke with a lot of different rebbeim, read a lot of books, and then I just made, eventually, I came across during COVID a very nice young man by the name of Ben Kugel. And
Nice.
you laugh, maybe you know him. And he's a very nice young man. I say young because I'm old enough to be his mother, so I get to say he's young. And I had been on the WhatsApp groups. We all know about, you're on your phone, you're on your WhatsApp groups. Here's your resume. Oh, what are you looking for? They're good and bad. And there had been different WhatsApp groups for people who did not take the vaccine for COVID, but they had like 5 people, 10 people. And I came across his group, which he was sort of starting. And I said, hey, would you like my help with it? Because he kind of needed a matchmaker. He needed the female energy. And which there is female energy, there's masculine energy. And he said, yeah, come and join. And then we together, the female and the male energy, grew the group. And so we have our True Match, my True Match group. I came up with the name, he came up with the logo, we worked together on it, and a really nice guy. And we have like about 700 people in the group. And I get calls at every hour of the day and night. My family can attest to this. Brazil, France, Italy, England, Africa, Australia, everywhere. People need a shidduch. And so it doesn't stop. If I'm not working, if I'm not eating, if I'm not sleeping, then I'm doing shidduchim. That's it.
I think we found someone who's more obsessed with shidduchim more than I am, which is remarkable. Yeah. So you have a lot of international people on there, you're saying?
Yes, we do. But so when people talk about, the shidduch crisis, which I don't do this, I say the shidduch crisis because it's real. It's international. It's in Israel. I mean, when little old me, Mrs. Stillman, living in America, has her, this is where it all happens, folks, right on here. When this is going off in the middle of the night, because I have people from Israel or Australia reaching out to me saying, hey, I need to find someone. That's insane. That's insane. But that's what's happening.
Right. So how would you define a shidduch crisis? Some people define it differently than others.
Right. So, there are different issues that are happening within. We have the Jewish culture, but then we have subcultures within it, right? My background was sociology and criminal justice, so I understand cultures and subcultures.
I honestly did not see that coming, but
didn't see that coming.
Because you're a teacher, right?
I am a teacher.
That's
yes,
so funny.
I have multiple degrees, so
yeah, nice.
So I do approach what I'm doing from a cultural standpoint, and a lot of psychology is involved, and a lot of helping humans to understand how to communicate with one another, understand their expectations, and how does that translate into a human being, and how to form bonds, because a lot of people just they don't know, they have no idea anymore, and it's sad. And I'm also older, so I remember a time when we didn't have phones and we didn't have computers, and people actually met and fell in love and got married, or sometimes love came after marriage, either one. But what was the question? Sorry.
I was just wanted your definition of the shidduch.
The shidduch crisis.
Yeah.
Okay, so the shidduch crisis is a couple of different things. So within the very, very religious groups, like the yeshiva groups, or Mishpacha magazine just came out with Lakewood and their decision of how they're going to handle their shidduch crisis, right? And then you have the shidduch crisis of men who are in their 40s and 50s and never married, women who are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s and have never been married. And these are Orthodox people, right? But then we also have a Shidduch crisis within the non-religious Jews as well. They're having difficulty finding someone to marry. So it's not just these frum yeshivish people over here, and they don't know how to meet, and they don't know how to interact. It's also your typical Israeli walking around. And if the typical Israeli walking around is contacting people in America, coming here to try to find someone to marry, like what's going on. So there's a lot of different reasons, especially within the different subcultures that are contributing. But then overall, society, even the non-Jewish society, they are having difficulty marrying. So there is a Shidduch crisis within the entire Western world, but we're feeling the pain of it, and we've been feeling the pain of this for decades now. There's, let me see, about 20, I'm going to say approximately 24, 25 years ago, I was at my Rebbitzin's house, the Rebbitzin of the community. She had like a Shabbos get together for the women. And there was a great Rebbitzin, I do not remember her name, this has been so long, from Baltimore, and she'd survived the Holocaust. And so she was there, to speak about her surviving the Holocaust and everything. And we all listened. And I remember this distinctly. The first question that was asked, because they opened up at the end, ask questions. And the first question that was asked, there was a woman there. And she said, "Oh, holy Rebbitzin," whatever her name was. We have a lot of women who they're not married. This was 25 years ago. We have a lot of women who are not married. They're beautiful, wonderful, smart, accomplished women. They're in their early 30s, maybe even their mid 30s. Some of them, their late 20s, and they can't find anyone. And they're all crying, and they can't get married, and they don't know what to do. What do we do? And the Rebbitzin, she's listening, and they said, so we'll talk to the matchmakers, the Shadchan. They're going out, they're trying everything. The men all say they don't want to marry them. They want to marry 22-year-olds because they want to have children. They don't want to marry the 32-year-old. And I'm listening. At the time I was married, I had children, but I'm thinking, gee, for my kids in the future, I better pay attention. What does the Rebbitzin say? And the Rebbitzin says, you know what? Women in their 30s, they can have children. Hashem's created miracles. Women in their 40s can have children. There's medical miracles out there. So the issue isn't that the women in their 30s can't have children. The issue is that men just want to, have sex with women who are 22. And that's always been that way. So if they really want to have children, they'll marry women who are 32. And what's going to have to happen is not the men changing, because this is how men have always been. What's going to have to happen is the women. You're going to have to look and see, instead of I need this Talmud Chacham who's been learning forever, who's been whatever, maybe you find a nice professor, and he's a Baal Tshuva. And he's learning, but he's also working. So she's coming from this Baltimore yeshiva type background and saying, maybe you find the guy who's not what you thought he was going to be, but you see some qualities in him. And these guys who are crazy, who think they've got to have a 22-year-old to have kids, they can stay single. But you're going to find someone who's going to be worth it for you, and then you'll have your family. So that was 25 years ago from the great Rebbitzin who survived the Holocaust, and that was her Shidduch advice. So if that was happening then, I can tell you it's even worse now. And that's what I see as much of the Shidduch crisis is. You have two different groups. They're competing for whatever it is that they think they need. People don't know how to communicate. People don't really understand what they should be looking for. And here we are.
Here we are. So would you say it is because a lot of, especially in the right wing culture, is saying there's an age gap difference, and obviously I had on, and I think a lot of people quote a Shidduch study,
Yeah.
and honestly, it's one of the most misquoted Shidduch studies. And
Yeah.
how do I notice? Because I had the guy who did the
Yeah.
study
I
on my
watched it.
episode,
Mhm.
and we went through it. And according to him, just to reiterate, there's no age gap per se. There is a tiny one once you get past a certain age for the more yeshivish crowd versus modern Orthodox crowd. But people are definitely getting married much later in life. There's no question about it. So why don't we take this in steps? Because I think there's definitely issues on both sides. Both men have issues, women have issues. Which side do we want to take first? Do you want to address first?
That's a good question. So I know Zipporah talked about women mainly. I know because my husband and we were watching the show, and when it ended, he thought it was really good. It was really great. He said, but she didn't mention the men enough. And I thought that was interesting coming from a man.
Okay.
So let's talk about the men first.
Let's do it.
Okay, what do you want to know?
So why don't we talk about what is one of the biggest issues facing men and something actionable that they can do to help improve their odds of actually getting married?
So it depends upon the generation of the men. So, I mean, like I literally have 74-year-old man, a 74-year-old, 75-year-old man walked up to me in Kiddush to ask me to help him find a shidduch. I get this constantly, which I'm happy he did. And he's like, well, maybe I'll take a woman who's like, 70, maybe 69. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand. The women now want younger men. They don't want older men anymore. And he's like shocked. So it depends upon the generation. In your generation and being in New York and everything, you guys have so much out there to pick from, and everyone thinks they have unlimited possibilities, but you really don't. And I know because I've met just also a kiddush, the guy who's probably 42, 43, he's talking to me saying he can't understand what's going on, that no one's getting married. He can't get a date. The guys he knows, they're dating, but they're not really committing. Everyone keeps thinking there's something better over the horizon, right? So they're trying to maximize their options. I will meet young men, and frequently I hear this phrase, I know my value, I know my worth, I know what I bring to the table. And my response to them is, you are broke, you are poor, and you bring nothing to the table because you are not married, no woman loves you, and you have no sons. And that stops them cold, because that is a reality. They need to stop thinking they are so great and wonderful and it's us against them. Every woman out there is not your enemy. And I have literally heard guys, it has been shocking when I've been at open mic, the rabbi is speaking about shidduch this or that, and guys will stand up. And it was actually a rabbi and one of those people from one of those studies that the OU did, and they came to town to speak about it. And there was a gentleman who got up, and he was one of the first one up, and he attacked the woman who was giving the presentation. I think she was like a social worker or a psychologist or something with the numbers. And he was, now maybe the women who said no to us in the past, they realized what a mistake they made. And I could feel the air sort of come out of the room. And I looked at the other woman next to me who's also a Shadchanite, and we both gave each other the eye, and we understood, yeah, that's why this man's still single, because he has anger towards women that is not necessary. And he's seeing it as an us against them. And I'm not saying all men, I'm saying some, but I could understand the frustration because 80% of the men are being ignored. 20% of the men are getting all the likes on social media. They're getting all the yeses. What the hell are you guys supposed to do if you're not the 20%? If you're not 6 feet tall, making six figures with the square jaw and all the muscles, and trust me, I get the pictures from the women. This is what I'm looking for. And I tell them that does not exist in the Jewish world. That's a picture of a Gentile movie star. So I don't know how to help you, lady, because he's not converting. So, but the women will say, this is what I want. I think for men, even the frum men in the frum religious communities, if they understood there are signals that women are looking for, and if they can find that signal, they will be more willing to stop, wait, and find out about you. Okay? What are those signals? You can be a protector, a provider, and a procreator. Those are the three things women are looking for. The way that they're signaling I'm a protector is 6 feet tall. So, like everyone says, women marry at an equal status or above, and men marry an equal status or below. So women want men who are taller than they are, literally and figuratively. Well, men right now are getting the sticky end of the lollipop because women, especially in the frum world, are better educated and earning more money than the men are. And we have set this up on purpose. Why? Because all the girls are told as soon as you get out of Beis Yaakov Seminary, what do you need to do? Go become a speech language pathologist. Go become a PA. Go become a nurse practitioner. Go become a high-powered lawyer. Go into all of these fields so you can make money because there's a certain segment of our subculture. You're going to support him while he learns. Okay, but then you've got to find him attractive. And there is an innate thing within women when they realize at some point, I'm making more money than he does. I'm more successful than he is. And there's a lot of marriages that are falling apart in Lakewood and other places. And that's part of what's feeding into it, I think. But then when women, and I hear this a lot, they're 30, 35 years old, even 28, 29, I am so successful. I've got everything together. I'm attractive. I'm everything, but I cannot find a man that I want. They can find a man, but they can't find a man they want. And that's because they are so successful. And they are not going to be attracted to a man who's shorter than they are. And I don't just mean physically. I mean their education, their ability to earn. And the reason why the ability to earn is important is not because a woman is looking at you from this gold digger perspective. And I want men to understand this. Women are looking at you, Max, you personally. If I were looking to date you, you are going to be my insurance policy. At some point, I am going to get pregnant. I am going to leave the workforce. Whether it's a hunter-gatherer culture, whether it's an agricultural culture, whether it's an industrial culture. I have to leave the workforce because I have to nurture this new human being, and then I have to keep this new human being alive for approximately 3 years until it can kind of be on its own. Hence, we cut boys' hair at 3 years old for the first time, right? Kind of separate from mom a little bit by then. Then the tribe can kind of take care of the child a little bit with us. ooh, by then I'm probably having another child. So I'm going to be out of the workforce for a while, especially for the guys saying on the first or second date, they want 6 to 8 kids. And they tell these women, I don't know why, I want 6 to 8. Some of them say, I want 10 children on the first date. You think that's not frightening away these women? It does. And so these women are going to look at you as their insurance policy. Are you going to take care of me while I'm taking care of your children? And if you're saying to them, like I hear from a lot of guys, when they say, well, I'm going to learn for 2 to 3 years. Okay, well, what are you going to do next? I'll figure it out. I'll go into business. Well, if I were a woman and I were single and I were looking for my insurance policy, that's not a very good insurance policy. What's going to happen when I have my 6 kids that he wants? Who's taking care of them? Who's paying for all of this? $20,000, $25,000 a pop per year for each kid at day school? That's a lot of money. So, we're kind of not being a gold digger, but being I need to find an insurance policy. And if I have to leave the workforce and then I go back, I'm going to be at a lower earning potential. So not only do I need the provider, but I need the person who's going to be the procreator. Well, the procreator isn't just have kids. Procreator is also, he's got to have kindness. He's got to have gentleness. He's got to have some nurturing ability. Because I know I am not going to be able to be at my best for several years. And what I don't need is the man saying, I know what I bring to the table, and you're not bringing anything to the table. Because I'm going to be vulnerable. I have to depend on him. So I need to see he's going to be kind to the waiters. I need to see he's going to be opening the door for me when we're going out on this date. And I know that horribly messed up young woman who yelled at you, I can get my own door. I'm a strong, independent woman.
My favorite.
I wish I could sit her down, and I hope to God she's listening to this, and explain to her how absolutely messed up she is in viewing what you did for her. You did exactly what a man should do. You display the characteristics of a man who, when his wife and his family needs him to step up, you are going to do that. That is one of the hottest things a man can do, is show how caring and kind he can be. And a woman is looking for this always on a date. I have a very dear friend, and she's old enough to be my mother. And she told me about her mother telling her, what do you look for in a man when you're going out? And she told her, here's the test you do. Spill soup on his shoes and see how he reacts. And that's real, because women are trying to tell in any way they can, is this man going to be aggressive towards me? Well, he's aggressive towards the waitress. What happens when I bring him his food at home? Is he going to be aggressive like that to me? I know I have a family member who has worked in kosher grocery stores and retail and things. And she would tell me about the very wealthy men who would come in. They've got their kids, their wife with the $3,000 shadel and the whole thing, and they're very well thought of in the community. And they'll take their really, really great credit card that has got like a $50,000 limit on it at least. And they just slam it down in front of her. And they're just like, eh. And she takes one look at this and says, I know why your kids act the way they do in this store. And I know why your wife looks the way she does when she looks at you. I wouldn't want to marry you no matter how much money you have. You're not a nice man. Women watch this. They see how you act. So broadcast to the woman, you do have kindness. That's not weakness, that's strength. because you're going to be protecting her. Remember, protector, provider, procreator. So if you're going to protect her, you do have to show her that strength. And so in our Jewish community, unfortunately, we have told men throughout, like, I guess the past 20 years, especially the past 10, I don't agree with any of it. I think it's horrible what we've been telling men, to stop being men. And we've unfortunately reared our sons to be like women, and it's not helping them. And our young men, not just in the Jewish community, but as a whole, but I'm focusing on the Jewish community, don't have a lot of fathers and grandfathers and uncles around to show them how to be men. And it's decimating our community. And one's, it used to be, right? You lived with your father and your grandfather and your uncles and your cousins and all these male role models. But we live separate now. And we'll talk on the phone maybe, or, we had a lot of generational trauma where men were killed. We have the Holocaust, we have World War II, we have World War I. We don't have as many examples of what it means to be masculine. And so women have stepped forward, and women have had to take on the role of oftentimes being the leader in the home. They're all the teachers, and that's sometimes the majority of a young man's day at school is around women. And then he comes home and he's around his mom. And then when does he see his dad? Maybe he comes home from work and he's too exhausted to tell him anything, or maybe he comes home from learning and, the kid's already asleep by the time dad comes home from learning. So they're not really around a lot of men telling them how to be men. And then we are segregating our boys and our girls, which is fine, but we're segregating them at a critical time where the men and the women need to be together. They need to learn how to communicate with each other. They need to build attraction. And then they need to see, would I like to be with you? I see you signaling that you're masculine. I see you signaling that you're feminine. Gee, let's get married. So all these great verbatim, and we appreciate them, we look up to them, we love them, we respect them. If we go back historically, people did not meet on, saw you at Sinai. They didn't meet on WhatsApp. They didn't meet on Loop. They didn't meet with a Shadchan saying, here's her hot picture and the resume. They just met. They either met at NCSY camp, which used to be for frum people. NCSY was not outreach. People forget this. They met at Shabbos meals. They met, like Eliezer met at the well, the girl bringing water, for Pete's sake. Okay, you got to know each other. You saw each other. And so the critical time when it's really great that all young men are going to college at Turo. It's really great that the women are going to college, but they're going to college online and never see each other, or the boys' time is here and the girls' time is there, and there's no, mixers, or maybe they could get together, get to know each other. God forbid that happen. God forbid kiddish is guys can walk up to a girl and just have a conversation and then not be creepy, but maybe go to someone like me, go to the Rebbitzin, go to the rabbi and say, hey, I spoke to Sarah. I thought she seemed kind of nice. Do you think she'd want to go out with me? We don't do that. So men are not having the opportunity to communicate. I know I've had several very nice young men that I've had to explain to them how to have a conversation with a woman on a date. I've had to literally video with them. Okay, don't wear that. I've taken young men shopping for clothes to figure out what are you supposed to wear so that you look attractive. I've given advice on where to go. What do you do? These young men have no idea. And they're not just 22. Some of these are 40-year-old men, 35-year-old men. And they're not nebbishy. They're successful men. Good looking too. So no one's taught them. They have no idea. And I tell women, men would if they knew. And you may just have to help them a little bit and give them a little grace, because there's a lot of guys out there who are not that 20%, on Loop, or 20% on Tinder, or wherever it is that the best shidduch resume that I'm sending out to some girl, and she's like, oh yeah, that's the one I want. But he's got 15 other women lined up for him. And you don't stand a chance, honey, because he's a 10 and he's looking for another 10. And you're a 5 or a 6. It ain't happening. And I know I'm going to get hate mail about that one. But that's a reality. Yeah. So practical advice for men. Exercise and work out. I think I sent you a video that I was watching. So this doesn't come from me. One of the people on the video said, when he counsels young men, he says, look at yourself in the mirror. Would you sleep with you?
I was listening to that podcast, honestly, on my drive here. It's actually the second time. I was listening to it twice, actually, because I think it's probably one of the best episodes on dating I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Sorry.
But that's the truth. And he said it in a way. I've been saying this to men for a while. I've also said the same thing to women. I mean, this applies for men and women. It's like put an E rating on this podcast for the future, for anyone who's going to listen to it, because we're going to have an adult conversation right now. If you look in the mirror and you're like, gee, would I want to be with me? You don't have to be perfect, but you need to present your best self. And that could mean you might need to lose weight. You might need to get a better hairstyle. You might need to learn to put makeup on if you're a woman. You might need to learn to change your dress if you're a man. Learn how to dress. Learn how to stand. I've told young men and older men as well, women are looking for a protector. Okay, how can you guys signal that? Well, I'm not 6 feet tall. I'm not big and muscly, and, I'm not a Gentile, And I'm like, dude, have you read the Torah? Do you not understand what incredible armies we had? How aggressive Jewish men actually have been historically? I mean, do people not realize and understand? You have like Yosef, he was chased after by the non-Jewish women. These were good-looking men. How do you think we got here? Okay, so I'm thinking, you guys, you need to step up your game. Go to a nice Bukharian barber, get your hair done, get your beard done, dress well. If you need to lose 20 pounds, then do that. Get out of the basement, stop looking at porn, stop playing video games, go out there, take Krav Maga. Well, I don't have any place in my neighborhood to do that. You have a phone and you have internet. Put it there, watch a video, and start doing that. You can do push-ups. I learned Gomorrah. Fine. Take 5 Gomorrahs, put them one on top of the other, and start bench pressing them. Okay. I mean, do you really think that the girl who wants to get married to someone that she feels like when we're walking down a dark alley, I'm going to have to protect him? No, you don't have to be Hulk Hogan. You have to be the best version of yourself. You just have to be bigger than her. Okay. You just have to be stronger than her. That's it. But you have to signal that in some way. And, you need to be the person who, like, I have heard from women, oh God, I've heard from women, they've gone out on dates. There's he didn't open any doors for me. He was rude to the wait staff. My favorite one was, we're in line to go get like a coffee and a croissant or something. And he keeps saying, you get yours, you get yours. He wants her to pay for it. This is their first meeting. He's 37 years old. He can't pay for a hot chocolate and a croissant. That just signaled to her he is not going to be a protector, a provider, or a procreator. I mean, he's 37. It's not a 5-star meal that's $200. It's a hot chocolate. And that's what it is. So I've told women, don't take advantage of men taking you out for meals. You have to realize maybe the meal comes on the 4th date. Maybe there are other things that you can do. But for men, for them to present themselves in their best way, if they need to take a class, if they didn't get the opportunity to go to college, or they did go to college, but they don't know how to better their economic, socioeconomic status, then can they take other classes? Can they try to get a different job? Can they try to get a second job? Whatever it is that they can do, they need to try to do, and they need to save their money. I have had young men who've said, I can't find anybody where I am. I've dated everybody around me. So my response is move. Just move. Can you move? If you change your location, you change your mazel. So if your job allows you, I work online. Okay, go to Miami, go to Texas, go to California, go move. I'm a nurse. There's a lot of male nurses. Be a traveling nurse, go to the different cities, date for 6 months somewhere, see who you find there. So I've given lots of different advice depending upon the situation. And then there are the guys who are Baal Tshuva. And the Baal Tshuva guys are special because Baal Tshuva guys are, they have a double challenges. Because I, as a woman, and I'm thinking as a single woman, I have seen probably the previous generation that there was this nice Baal Tshuva boy, and he married my older sister or my older sister's best friend, and then 5 years and 3 kids into it, he doesn't wear tzitzits anymore. He's not davening anymore. We don't know where he's going to end up on his Baal Tshuva high. So a lot of women are afraid to date or marry Baal Tshuvas. I have a lot of women say, well, how long has he been Baal Tshuva? 7 years? That's not long enough. Okay, well, by the time it's long enough, he'll be 50, So Baal Tshuva guys have, unfortunately, a couple of issues. That's a totally separate kind of group, but a lot of them are told, they embrace Judaism and they're learning, and so they'll come out and they'll say, I want the frummest of the frum girl. I want her so sneous. I want this, I want that. And then they go out on the dates and they have no attraction to these women because they didn't grow up with girls that are like this and this, and the girls who don't know how to talk to you, and they're like, I don't understand. And I'm like, yeah, you were in frat parties, honey. So you don't get this, or they'll grow, the big bushy beard. And I have a lot of Chabad young men, Balchuva Chabad young men, and they can't get Chabad women to go out with them because they didn't grow up in the system. But they've got the big beard and they're really big on Chabad. And I've tried to explain to them the Balchuva Chabad women are used to a guy who probably looks more like you, Max. It's a beard, but it's shaved. Then when they see you with the big bushy thing, they're like, it's not as attractive,
Too much Chabad.
It's too much Chabad, right? It's not that Chabad is bad, but it's just, you got to understand, and one young man, he's getting no dates. I said, I see your pictures previously. You are a good looking guy. You maybe need to shave the beard. And then you're going to get regular Orthodox women who are going to think, oh, you're pretty good looking. Let me talk to you, the part about being like a protector, how is that signaled? So the way you look, and yes, facial hair is part of that. Women look at, unfortunately, men can't do anything if they're balding necessarily, although there is stuff they can do to try to help prevent that. But having the facial hair that is neat and trim and looks good, I know there's hashkafic reasons that some people, don't shave it and don't trim it so that it looks nice. But speaking as the person hearing what the women are saying it doesn't look good when it's, this thing growing here and this thing growing there. Either shave it all off or make it trim like you. It looks very masculine. It's very attractive. And you've got hair. Like, I could find you a woman. You have hair. This is a big deal.
Thank you. But,
You're welcome.
A lot of Jewish men do go bald. It's just a way of, it's just a fact of life.
It is and it isn't. So if you look at the latest research about why a lot of this is happening, you have drops in testosterone, you have dopamine issues, which is why the video games and the porn and the pot. Oh, that's the other thing. Stop smoking pot. I've had to have a lot of conversations with young men because the girls go out with them and the guys are smoking pot and the girls aren't into this. So, even grown men, like, I don't mean teenage, I don't mean 20-year-olds, I mean 34-year-old guys they're just getting high all the time. And the women are just, I'm not into this. Because remember, they're thinking in terms of provider, protector, procreator. This guy's high. The roaming hordes are going to come over the hill. They're going to come and take me and kill the kids because he's going to be high. So this is innate biology in women. And whether guys like this or not, that's what's happening. So I could send you the links, but cutting down on blue light, which is the computer screens, the LED lights and everything in your home, getting up and seeing the sunrise, getting rid of PFAS and bisphenol A's in the diets. The Jewish community has a real problem with the food that we're feeding our kids, especially every time I see anyone with a cholent and they've got the plastic liner, I cringe because that is absolutely the most toxic thing I've ever seen being fed to people. And that impacts the endocrine system of men. And it's putting estrogen into men. And that's why your hair is falling out. And that's why the next generation, the guys don't have jaws. They have female features that it's like this. I literally have, I cannot tell you how many women say to me, I don't want to date him. He looks like a woman. They have female features. You don't. You have a jaw.
I
You
was
have
just gonna, I was
masculine
just gonna,
features.
I was just gonna ask you. I'm like, do I have that joke?
No, you don't. You have masculine features. So it is, it, this is like such a bigger topic.
I mean, that's a whole
It's
podcast.
a whole other podcast. It's a whole other
Also,
podcast. I
even,
know.
I mean, like, even if let's say someone completely changed their diet, changed their lifestyle to fit everything that you're saying,
It can help. It can help.
does that mean that they'll start growing hair? Like,
There are ways to try to, number one, prevent it from continuing to fall out, and yes, you can have some hair regrowth, but even more importantly, you know, like, um, when I two different things. One is, if I'm a guy right now, and let's say I'm in my early 20s, right, and I'm like, gee, my jaw's not that big. Start eating carrots, apples. You need to work the muscles. I'm not joking. There's a reason why Israelis look slightly different than American Jews. Their diet is vastly different than ours. So when you see certain, it's not a genetic difference per se, it's a cultural difference that's playing into the genetics, but also their food system, their water system, everything is very different, but we're bleeding into that with parv. Parv is really bad. All of the soy products, all of the boxes of parv milk and the whole thing, it's really actually bad for you, from an estrogen standpoint. And I think about that because I'm a teacher and I'm in school every day with the next generation. And the other issue that we have, it's a very small issue, but it's going to get bigger, is we have a lot of young men, and there is like a special group that helps these singles who are on the spectrum and trying to find a shidduch for people that are on the spectrum and helping them to be able to communicate. They're just as lonely. They want to be married just as much as anyone else. And when you're in a school now in the Jewish world, you have such a high number now. And for whatever reason that is happening, diet and everything that's going into the children, which there's enough science behind it to show that this is impacting their development and their health.
Well, you can get into the whole make America healthy again for all the crap.
Yeah, I know.
Putting in our, I mean, like, I think that's just a United States issue.
It is, but it impacts us. And when the rabbis talk about the shidduch crisis, they're thinking today, this, you know, these women that are coming to them crying and saying, I'm in my late 20s and I don't have a guy to marry who's a learner, right? But what they aren't seeing that the Shadchan is seeing, and I talk to other matchmakers, is we're seeing the 18-year-old and the 19-year-old and the 15-year-old and the 16-year-old, and we're seeing even younger than that we're like, oh my gosh, this is exponential, and it's going to be worse in the next generations. You know, like I've had there are young women contacting me at 17. I'm ready to start Shidduchim now because I know how hard this is going to be, and I might not find someone, and I know what I want to find. And consistently, every woman I have spoken to, this is why I'm speaking to the men first, every woman I have spoken to, I don't care how frum she is, I don't care how modern she is, every single woman, either explicitly or in some form, has expressed, I want a masculine man. That is what they want to marry. Almost to a T, every single woman has said in some form or another, I want to be a stay-at-home mother and raise my children. Even the ones who are, I'm going to go and I'm going to get my education and I'm going to have a degree and I will go into this job field. When I have my children, I want to stay home and raise them. But what's fascinating is when I speak to the men and I ask them, what are you looking for? A very few percent tell me they want a woman who's going to work all the time. Almost, I would say 90% of the men, I want a woman who's going to be a stay-at-home mom. I want her to stay home and take care of my children. So they both want each other. They just don't know how to find each other.
They're also not vocalizing that at all. At all.
I know. And it's sad because...
Well, I mean, from a guy's perspective, if a guy came out and said that, he's going to be called a misogynist. He's going to be called a sexist. You name it. How could you say that?
No, because I want what's best for my wife and my children. And I want to let you know, there will be some backpedaling when the guys talk to me and they'll say, well, I mean, if she wants to work, that's fine. I'll totally support her doing that.
Right.
If and I know there's a generation, I don't have a problem telling you, I'm 56 years old. So my generation grew up with the previous generation that, our mothers were home when we got home from school, but when women had to step up and work, when we had to go into the factories because it was World War II, we did. When women, had side jobs or whatever it was that we did, but by and large, we took care of our families. And that also meant taking care of your older parents, your extended family, and our community. We volunteered in our community and we took care of everybody else as well. Okay, now we fast forward, and in my generation, they started telling us, you need to go, be the high achieving woman. And, it was the 1970s, and I remember all this, and women are smoking, and women, you got the birth control pill, and you can do whatever you want, and it'll be great. And I remember growing up with that and looking at it, and I was told, you have to achieve, and if you don't achieve, then you're not fulfilled as a woman. And I remember being in that and being a wife and a mother and thinking, well, I have to go achieve, I have to go do something. But at the same time being pulled with, but this doesn't feel right. I feel like I should be here with my family. And that was a balancing act. And it took me a while, and it took my generation understanding this. But then the next generation that has come down and is dating, that 30-year-old generation and the late 20s and early 20s, that generation, I'm now doing Shidduchim for young people who are my grandchildren's generation. Those generations are saying, we remember our moms not being home. We remember things were not the way they should have been. And we now have attachment disorders. This is the new thing that everyone's talking about in psychology, is avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, and how people will have, men especially will have avoidant attachment, and women will have anxious attachment disorders, rather than being a stable attachment, a healthy attachment, which is what we should, God willing, have. In past generations, we had stable attachment. Now, guys are avoiding being in relationships with women because they're, these women are just out to get me. They're gold diggers. They want too much. They want super Jew. I'm not going to be this. I'm not going to let that woman take advantage of me. The red pill stuff, which is great. And then you've got the women, they're the other side of it. And, I'm going to be strong and powerful because I can, and no man's going to hold me down. And, yeah, but the women are missing out on a lot. They really are. And it's
So
sad.
is that a good transition to go into probably one of the biggest issues with women, with the women's side, and how they can, an actionable tip for them to enhance their chances at finding their partner?
So in some ways, it's similar to the men. So everyone when they're dating, they're either romanticizing this, they're maximizing this, they're hesitating. This is the shorthand version of this. So women are going around romanticizing a lot of this because that's what women do. The largest group of nonfiction that is purchased is romantic books. So you'll see resumes. Maybe you don't see them, but I do.
I've seen thousands of resumes, and they're all the same.
Well, I have pages of women writing an essay about exactly what they're looking for in a man. And I'm like, I don't know what fantasy, maybe you're the one smoking dope and I need it, and I need to tell you to stop smoking the dope. But there is no man like this. Okay. He davens 3 times a day. He learns every day. He works. He's this, he's that, and he's 6 feet tall. And, it's like, and he's going to be loving and warm and my best friend. And every time I read, I want my best friend, I'm like, you are in such a fantasy. That does not exist. Okay. It's just very different. So men's friendships are different than women's friendships. These are very different people. You can be friends with one another, but your best friend that is a woman will be vastly different. And the best friends that are the men are also going to be vastly different. These are different relationships. So you have to have women friendships and you have to have men friendships. And the women are romanticizing and they're expecting something that does not exist from the men. And then they're also trying to maximize because they need to find someone who is their status or higher. And so rather than accept, like I'm 5'6", okay? Well, I can only have a man who's 6 foot taller. I actually have 5'4" women who only want a man who's 6 feet tall. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Even with your 4-inch heels, you're never going to be, you don't need this. There are lots of men out there who are 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", perfectly capable of earning and protecting you. And if you're a guy and you're 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", work out even more. That way, even if you're not tall, you have this presence. Learn to give off the presence of being masculine in a healthy way. And then women, you need to understand that your idea of masculine could look many different ways. And you have to be prepared to find that and accept that you're not going to get the 10 or even the 9. Okay. The 10s and the 9 women, they're going to get the 10 and the 9 men. And that's it.
It's interesting because I made a joke about how and I make jokes about both sides, but I'm clearly seeing people are taking my jokes too far. One of the jokes I've made was, women say character is everything, but the first question they ask is how tall they are and what's their job title.
Yeah.
And so someone reached out to me about, well, that's not true, that women don't will definitely date someone who's not necessarily 6 feet tall. My response to that was, it was more about just women will not date someone who's 1 inch shorter than them. I may have said 6 feet tall. Mm-hmm. You're saying they're more fixated on the 6 feet tall or just taller than they are?
So it's the signal of what it means. So we used to be able, you as a man, used to be able to signal that you were masculine because there were things that you did and we could, as women, see it. The only thing we have now in a dating app or resume is your height, what your job is, how many times a day do you daven, you know. So these are signals, and women and men both, they're trying to see just what is the basic. Okay, I'll go out with you, I'll go out with you. And so for men, when you look at the picture, and women don't, I hope women understand this, but I have told many women, you need to get a professional picture. And I've told men, you need to get a professional picture, because the picture of you with three other women, all next to each other, this is not helping you, okay? Or the selfie. Please, guys, stop taking pictures of yourself in the bathroom mirror. It's weird. It tells women you have no friends, okay? No pictures in the car of you with yourself. Don't do that. Have a friend who's going to take a picture of you, or pay someone to do it. So that men are looking for, they're supposed to be looking for beauty, because beauty signals to the man fertility. Men want to have their offspring. Okay. So that's where you get the female features. And it doesn't mean there's a difference in hotness and beauty. These are different. And women don't understand this, and men don't understand this. The men are being confused by the Instagram culture and Amazon. They think I can get an Instagram hot looking woman and it's going to be Amazon 2-day to me. And I'm going to go out with her and boom, boom. Very first time we meet, it's going to be instant fireworks because it's Disney. And it's always by the end of the movie, that's an hour and a half, 2 hours max. They're in love and they've already had one problem and they fixed it. And it's going to be great and the sex is wonderful. Okay, that does not happen in real life. So you're looking for beauty, which is different from hotness. Hotness is just about getting a dopamine hit. Maybe it lasts 6 months. And at the end of that, it's over. That's what's going on in your Upper East Side, Upper West Side thing. All this is lasting maybe 6 months max. And they're going through relationship after relationship. They're getting nothing out of it. They're getting a dopamine hit, but they're not getting oxytocin. They're not getting vasopressin. Their serotonin, everything is in the toilet. This is all the chemical reactions that are going on in a loving, strong relationship are not happening. And then the men go out for another dopamine hit. And so the women, by signaling beauty, that signals I'm available to reproduce, okay? And I have a pleasing personality and I have intelligence. No man wants to marry a woman who's not intelligent, because with intelligence, my offspring are going to survive. Doesn't mean you've got to have a PhD, but it does mean you have to carry on a conversation. So women and men being able to carry on conversations with each other, finding things in common. I have a whole list of questions that I tell singles to ask on their dates. So this isn't a job interview, but this is finding out about each other. Finding someone that you share values and you share goals with. That is the most important thing, whether it's hashkafic, whether it's political, whether it's how we want to raise our children. And women have to understand, yes, you put on makeup, you do your hair, you dress nice. Maybe they have to lose weight. Some of them do, but they don't need to be a size 2 or a size 0. They just need to look healthy. They also need to get up and see the sunrise. They need to get out from in front of the blue lights. They need to not be on 15 different psychotropic medications. That's not helping them. They need to change their diet. They need to improve their gut biome, which will then impact their brain chemistry, which will then get them out of the depression and the anxiety that they are living in. They need to accept the help from the man and let him be the man so they can be the woman. And they can have their feminine energy appreciated. And then the man is going to look at them. And it's not that they have to be a 9 or a 10. He's going to look at them and go, she's beautiful. Because he sees in her this innate kindness, this innate connection. But that doesn't happen on one date because I saw her hot picture from the Shadchan or on loop. And so we meet up. Oh, she's not as hot as this. Forget it. I'll find someone else. You've got to give it time. I tell both men and women 3 to 5 meetings before you decide, would I date this person or not? It's not dates yet. You're just meeting. You're just getting to know them. And then at the end of at least 3, probably 5, if you don't feel some connection by the 5th time that you've met them, then you probably won't. But if you start to feel some connection, then you decide if you want to date. Because I never would have married my husband if I were in this culture now, and my husband never would have married me if we were in this culture now. Never would have happened.
And why do you think that? Why do you think that is?
We've both talked about it, and we both agree. The culture is instantaneous. Everything about it is a superficial Instagram look, which all of that is filters. You know, I mean, how many women? There's a ton of AI on there. Women with their lips all filled. You know, what is this? The lamination of their eyebrows, and you see all these signals. And I have guys who will send me pictures. This isn't just the women doing it. Guys will send me pictures. This is what I want. And when I get that from the 50-year-old guys who still are dating, still not married, I'm like, dude, you're 50. Yes, but I want to have a family. It's not happening. And I'm getting it from the 25-year-olds. And I'm seeing it, they're sending me hot pictures, not beautiful pictures. There are guys who have said to me, they want me to find them women who converted because they don't find Jewish women attractive. That's painful to hear. And when you hear that from Orthodox men, and I don't know what to say to that, except get off of Instagram and turn off the porn and start having real relationships. And women are beautiful. You know, maybe the woman who's a size 8 is not your beauty. Maybe the woman who is a size 4 is your beauty, right? Maybe the guys who are like, I need a woman with blue eyes. I need blue eyes. The blue eyes is going to make a difference 30 years from now when you get the report from your doctor that you've got cancer. Her blue eyes are going to stay with you when your business has gone in the frickin' garbage? Really? You know, I don't understand both sides. And I'll get from the women too. You know, I want the 6 foot tall guy, or, you know, whatever that signifies. So his 6 feet tall, you know, when God forbid something happens, you know, is that going to be around to care and support for you, you know?
From what I'm getting, and I'd love to get your feedback on this, but it sounds like the biggest issue on both sides is that they are just not naturally meeting each other in person.
No, they're not. And if I could wave my little magic wand, my little Shadchan magic wand, I do Shidduch singles events. I do singles events. I participate in them that are being done locally, but then I also have done my own. And I do think that a very real problem that we have is we used to meet, there were singles events. I remember these from 20 years ago. We don't have those anymore because, you know, we're so religious that men and women cannot be together in the same room. I don't get it. Which is, the whole idea, basically, these are blind dates that are happening when they're, in the yeshiva world, and he's never been around a girl except for his mother and his sisters, and now he's going to sit down with a bottle of Coke and, the waiter, and she's never been around anyone but her father and her brothers, and they're going to sit down and they're going to talk, and they have no idea what to talk about, right? But if they had some help from male and female, and then they had a singles event, they're old enough to get married, they're old enough to be in a room with each other, right? Or it used to be your parents or your grandparents' generation, they would go bowling after Shabbos, and there would be guys and girls there, and they'd have, the snacks and the soda bar that you'd go to, and the guys and the girls would kind of mingle, or they'd go to the ice cream place and they'd kind of mingle and talk, and you got to know each other. And then maybe you went to the matchmaker to say, hey, I was interested in Rivka, or you went up to Rivka's friend and said, hey, do you think Rivka would go out with me? That's normal. That is normal. My mother-in-law tells this story about, when she was dating, and she's 86 years old, and from religious family. Her grandfather was the shochet, I go down the list of all of this. So these are not, off the derrick people, right? She was dating 3 or 4 guys at once. Well, whichever one came up with the ring first, whoever was serious. I had guys. Okay, it didn't mean she was like, doing what's going on in the New York boroughs there. She was going out. They took her out. This one took her out. I don't know if I want this one yet. I don't know if I want this one yet. And then one of them said, you think maybe you want to marry me? I don't know. Let me think about it. Okay, well, she thought about it. Not, I don't think so. And I'm going to keep going out with this one. So instead I go out with this boy, B-O-Y, boy, and I'm going to go out with him for 2 dates, and I have to make a decision right now. Am I going to keep going out with him or not? Am I going to marry him or not? That stress, that pressure, in the modern Orthodox world, it's very similar. I have to make a decision, and I'm within, 3 dates. I've got to make a decision. You've got to make a decision. Are you going to marry this girl or not? Really? And you can't compare her to any other girl because you've never been out with anybody else, because you were, learning in Israel for however long. Then you came back and you went to YU for however long, and you've never really been allowed around girls. And when you were, you said stupid stuff because no one told you what to say, and right. So it's sad. It'd be better if they spent some time together with reasonable accommodations to make sure nobody does anything they're not supposed to do, which I don't think they will, but clutch pearls and be worried about they might talk to each other at Kiddush.
Right. God forbid, because that may be good for Shidduchim.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So we've covered a lot. Definitely. Was there any final recap as far as if I'm a dude, what should I do? If I'm a woman, what should I do? Is it really?
It's really. Yeah. You should go. Man. Oh, there's so much.
They should call Zahava and reach out to Zahava.
Call Zahava. You need to be more open. You really do. I go out more than 3 times, 3 to 5 times before you make a decision. I don't want to go out with you anymore. There are questions you can ask for conversation starters. Don't just sit and stare at each other. That's not going to help. You have to have an activity. These are my practical advice that I give the singles. You've got to do activities When a couple does activities together, it releases specific chemicals in the brain that help to bond them. Whether it's bowling, mini golf, riding a roller coaster together will completely begin a bonding process for a couple. You just sitting there and walking around the pond and asking each other shoulda questions does not that much.
I gotta ask you with the bowling, because I'm a huge bowler. I'm a big bowler. I love bowling. I'd say 50% of women, and I can say that with confidence, hate when guys take them bowling. Number one, there's the sneeze aspect. They think
Yeah,
that you've heard this before. I'm
I
not
have.
making this up, and the whatever, and then they just hate bowling. So,
Well, but in between, so the reason why I suggest bowling is in between, you have time to think about what are you going to ask now? What am I going to say now? Right? You can also go, and I have told people, well, I'm dating a while. I don't know. Is this the person I should marry or not? And I've said, okay, here's all the different kinds of dates you should be doing. You should cook together, go grocery shopping together, get the ingredients. Well, but we can't be alone in his house or my house. I said, you live with your parents. Tell your parents to sit in the living room and the two of you go in the kitchen and you cook together. Maybe he has an apartment. Okay, great. He has an apartment. Leave the front door open. Tell all your friends we're going to be cooking together. Stop by. Just stop by. Nothing's going to happen. But you need to cook together. You need to build that bond and see how are you doing together. When you think this maybe is the girl I want to marry, this maybe the guy I want to marry, take a road trip together. Be in the car for 3 days together with another friend, with other couples, whatever it is, or take a plane ride, go to the place you're going to go. You need to spend significant time together, see each other in stressful situations, okay? Have an argument. There's no makeup. He's cranky. His blood sugar's low. Who's fighting over the radio, the whole thing. These are things that you need to do as you're dating. Remember, 3 to 5 meetings is not dating. Dating is dating. But you have to build and you have to give each other this opportunity to signal, I'm masculine, I'm feminine, I'm intelligent, I'm caring, I'm kind. So when you're on the road trip, right, and he's witnessing her kind of having a meltdown, how does he act? He might not really know what the hell to do, but he's like, well, she's having a meltdown. She's probably tired. Okay, well, you want me to get you a soda to help you feel better? He's trying the best he can. That's pretty good instead of just saying, forget it. She had a meltdown. I have heard other advice, like have a date for 9 hours. Okay, it's not a road trip, but it's a date for 9 hours because you need to be around each other. You need to see each other. And that actually came from, one of those hush of a Rebbes. Be with this girl for 9 hours. See her at her worst. The Rabbi Avigdor Miller,
yeah.
I have that I give over to my group all the time. He has a really good drasha that he gave, and it sums up with, and this is the biggest issue that I have with singles. I'm looking for my beshert. My beshert is out there. Hashem is going to send me my beshert. You're like 39. You're 45. You think Hashem has not sent your beshert already? Hashem has probably sent your beshert, and you said no to your beshert. That is entirely possible that you said no to your beshert because her face wasn't perfect enough, her nails weren't done the way you wanted, her eyes weren't blue, he wasn't 6 feet tall, he didn't articulate his plan the way you needed to hear his plan, right? But the way Rabbi Miller explains this is there is not one beshert for everyone. You could have multiple besherts, right? There are multiple people out there that could be your beshert. But what's most important isn't can they be your beshert, but can you be their beshert? That is the whole thing that is messed up with this. I decided, I made the conscious decision to be the beshert of my husband. My husband chose He decided, he made the conscious decision to be my beshert. We do that every single day. That is called a relationship. So you are not waiting for Hashem to magically helicopter in your beshert into your living room. And there's going to be rainbows and unicorns, and then the firecrackers are going off, and everything is going to be wonderful. Okay? That is not life. That is not marriage. Instead, you are finding the person that when you meet him or her, you say, this is the man or woman I want to be with on the worst day of my life. When I get the call that my father or my mother have died, this is the person I want with me. But more importantly, this is the person when they get the call, their father or mother has died. I want to be there for them. Because marriage, life in general, is a series of this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. And every so often you get, well, this isn't so bad. And then once in a while, Baruch Hashem, this is wonderful. Holy crap, this is great. Okay? It is this sucks every freaking day of your life almost. That is who you are looking for. Because you're not going to get through it with the, oh, I'm hot and I'm Instagrammy. You really think when the money goes out the window, the woman goes out the door. And that is so true. And I'm hot. He's going to love me because I'm hot. Honey, you're going to have 5 kids. Everything is going to sag 3 inches, and there's going to be a railroad track across your abdomen. You think he's going to love you then? You want him to love you for you. And you want her to love you for you. Because there's nobody else but the two of you. The rest of the world, they're gone. It's just you two for each other. And everyone has forgotten that. Everyone has forgotten that. Hashem has created the possibility of you finding your beshert because you decide to be the beshert for that person. Everyone is waiting. Give me, give me, give me. No one's willing to give.
Pirkei Avos. What's the definition of a good relationship or a relationship is when you're focused on giving to your wife and your wife is focused on giving to your husband. The second one is all for themselves, disaster happens. But some really deep stuff there, Zahava, and really appreciate the insight. This is, freaking phenomenal. I hope people are going to, I'm sure people get a lot from this episode. So if someone wanted to reach out to you or want to get in contact with you, how do they do so? I know I'll put some links below and there'll be a QR code somewhere.
Yeah. So I have, like I mentioned before, I'm on Saw You at Sinai for good and for bad. But then I also have my own WhatsApp group, for singles who it's focused on people who didn't take the COVID vaccine, whether you agree with that or not. And then I do have singles events. I'm actually going to be part of a singles event coming up for Tu B'Av. And I'm at different singles events that I do. I'm down here in South Florida. But then I also did a singles event when I went to Israel. And that was very successful. Thank God. And, my phone will ring at any time, and my husband and my family, they're loving and they understand. So
it's all Shidduchim.
Shidduchim, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll leave some links below, and if people want to get in touch with you, I guess they'll reach out. But again, really appreciate the time, and until next time.
Until next time.
And remember, everything will always be about Shidduchim. Catch you in the next episode.